All right. If you're a strategist as a customer, you've already seen Nintendo flinch. This is exactly what I think gamers should have been doing for the longest time, is halting, watching these companies flinch, and then capturing where they smell blood in the water. Now, if you don't smell blood in the water and you say, I'm just a gamer, I'm not really here for this, I guess I can understand. But those of us who like this kind of stuff with the economies, we're about to have some fun. I just made a video saying that this whole tariff thing has put Nintendo in between a rock and a hard place. I made different iterations of that video because, the video has to actually have politics mentioned in it because all of this stems from political influence, even though at the end of the day, it's an economic piece of the puzzle. Well, guess what's happened just in the last few hours? Apparently, the administration is claiming that Vietnam has actually called in and shown their interest in slashing their tariffs down to zero. This actually helps Nintendo, which is interesting. Here's what we're seeing. Wall Street Journal, New York Post have come out with a report that says that the president is claiming that Vietnam, after a productive phone call, has actually placed basically their interest forward on wanting to go to zero tariffs. I almost said zero taxes. Now, where's the blood in the water that you smelled? Well, it was Nintendo when they said, you know what, we're not going to do pre-orders for the US April 9th. We're going to reassess how this is going to affect us. You know what that means, right? That means that the consumer at large can also do something of such if they do not buy or jump in a hype train and actually control Nintendo's behavior to serve them. However, it's not that simple. Sometimes gamers can be very hype induced, and I've already seen a lot of gamers expressing their interest on how they're going to go ahead and buy this. In fact, I saw one. They say, I'm not interested in discussing the cost of these Nintendo, prices and games and even the console. I just know that there are these games on Nintendo and I'm going to buy it. This is actually somebody who is a pro Xbox person. I would leave names, unmentioned, but it's interesting that this is how we have the discussions and people actually see these things. Isn't it funny though? But what I've seen now is, as somebody who's basically taking this into account, I can just look and say, if I wanted a Nintendo Switch, I could just sit pretty. In fact, what was funny is, if you look at that list, Yahoo Finance has a publication that shows the different countries and what the tariffs are. And there's also a little bit of, the math is weird because actually it seems like there's an official tariff on paper number. And then there's, the other things that these countries are doing, such as currency manipulation and trade barriers, we estimate it to be X amount in terms of percentage, but the US is basically going to do a tit for tat tariff where they're going to do the official paper to paper reciprocation. And here, Vietnam, who was at around 90%, got hit with a 46% reciprocal tariff rate. And boom, just like that, they want to go to zero. So they flinched. It makes sense for them to say, let's just go free trade. There's no reason for us to upend our business, and all of the other companies that have been producing in their own land should have no need to fear or basically try to leave. I was making a joke saying that this is very funny because when a deal has to be made like this, right? If you think about the time zones, it seems like somebody was basically paying attention and they ran and woke up the decision maker and said, hey, they've put these tariffs. What do we do? And the first person to get on the phone was the first person to come out here and say, hey, man, we want to negotiate. And probably the other people, by the time they picked up the phone, the call was on hold. So this is very interesting for Nintendo at the end of the day because we've seen how economic factors have pretty much gone ahead to affect them. And in my video, I said something. I said, it would have to be that some of these other folk would need to come in and negotiate in order for, Nintendo to be able to see some kind of a bright side to this whole matter. So it appears the negotiations have basically started. And it's just Friday, bro. Like, it's insane because as we roll over the weekend, I think everyone's going to have their their economists and their financial ministers and all that stuff start running the numbers. And people are going to be able to, in these different nations are going to have to determine what kind of a tariff they can eat at the moment, or just say, you know what? what is actually the big loss to us? We just say we're no longer going to tariff you in this way, but we can probably go ahead and negotiate laws and rules to probably, still kind of give ourselves some kind of advantage. That is a national right for the governments to do, I guess. I'm not a fan of it, right? But still, at this point in time, the next piece of the puzzle, I think right now, is Cambodia, who have, according to this calculations, a 97% effective estimated tariff rate against the United States. That's the second side, because Nintendo moved their production into Vietnam and Cambodia. Vietnam now is looking at saying 0. So is Nintendo going to quickly pivot, or at least all these companies that are in Cambodia, they're going to start telling the Cambodian, administration, saying, hey, man, you might want to see what Vietnam has done, and you might want to go ahead and move that way so that we can stay here. If not, we're going to kick off a shop in Vietnam by Monday morning, because it seems like Vietnam is open for business, which is just so interesting to see that even as a gamer, you thought that you were immune or, in a sense, bulletproof from these issues, or your favorite company didn't have to respond to all of this. And then there's also the side of even Japan. We've not heard what they're going to do with their own 30 something percent was slapped on Japan on this whole thing. There's a whole thing with China, which is coming at the end. Oh man, this is going to be interesting. This is popcorn worthy from an economic perspective anyways. Anybody who likes economics, you want to see this thing play out, because man, I've never seen this kind of thing in my lifetime before. So my curiosity is actually piqued. But then at the same time, I got to look at my wall and look at how this is going to be affecting me and affecting other people out here. This is why I'm the person who always says, as a gamer, you ought to be seeking value more than anything else. This is why I laugh at those people who come out there and say, oh, like one person told me in the comment section, VG ain't got no money, he looking for a deal. I said, bruh, I'm looking for a deal anyways every day. Well, I'm going to take money and go be giving these companies that can basically flinch if I just literally sit there and say no. Did you guys just see how Nintendo flinched? All this talk about the market leader, did you see them basically, cold water got poured on their entire, direct that they did. The hype got melted real fast. And they couldn't even wait the weekend to say, let's just let this thing roll through Monday. Like, let's see how it all comes out. Maybe somebody's going to cave. They jumped and said, hey, hold the line. Hold the line. Where have I heard that before? Hold on is what they said. They didn't say hold the line. If they had held the line, they would have waited till Monday. Right? They came out and said, let's just hold. Let's everybody just hold on right now. Hold on right quick. What was that $4.49 we said? Probably telling all the other, retailers out there, throw that banner away. Because economic forces are very interesting. It's weird though. This is the perfect storm that's going to really prove the video game market in a very interesting way. A lot of those companies that have the advantage, or the countries that see that there is no benefit for them to basically keep doing this, I think we're probably going to start hearing from them in one way or the other. China's already going at it. They're like, no, we're going to give you 34% back. But I think they're going to eventually come out and say, hey, we were just kind of upset. Let's talk. Let's have a conversation. Because there seems to be something both parties feel that they own, that they have, that they can leverage. And it may be a stalemate. Who knows? But that's not even within our purview. What is within our purview is Nintendo, you, the consumer, how you can leverage what you've just learned in this past 48 hours and use it to your advantage. That's it. You now have to start strategizing. You already get the point, right? If you were going to pre-order a Nintendo Switch 2, did you see the way Nintendo flinched? You should use that to your advantage. My thoughts on the matter. Thanks for watching. Peace out.